The shadows in our lives are gathering ever closer around us, but united together, we can face the darkness. Nas Salentus Cortis, we adventure forth. The time has now come to go hunting the shadows. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to you all out there in podcast land. I am your humble host, Dennis Carroll, and this is Hunting the Shadows, episode 43. Tonight we're going to be talking about a very interesting young lady, or old, however she may be. Her name is Baba Yaga, the Witch of the Wood, and we're going to be talking about her and witches in general tonight. We'll see where that takes us and what rabbit holes we'll go down with that. Absolutely. Okay, let's open the chat room up and see. I think we've already got a few people gathering there. Hello, Shiro and Auntie Venom and Poncho Zorch. And good to have you here, Poncho, bud. And John Timprine, Midwest Night Watchers. Hello, Gerald. Yes, Shiro and Caitlin. Yeah, that name. Yeah, Caitlin. Okay, I got that. No, Catherine. I'm sorry. Catherine Part. Yeah, Catherine Parts. And let's see. The girl in her gong. D and G and G there. Yeah. And Aussie Sue. And my brother Juno, how you doing, buddy? And Shenval girl. Hello, Melissa. Good to have you all here tonight. I'm sure some of you may already be familiar with this old gal we're going to be talking about, Baba Yaga. And she is very interesting. She is a very, very interesting character, no doubt about it. I want to thank all of you for your invaluable support. Uh, because you have really helped out a whole lot. We're pushing close to 850 now. We're getting there. We're only 150 away from the 1,000 mark. Okay. So let's keep going. We're doing great. And want to make an announcement about the people who have purchased the necklaces, the Star of the Seven Archangels necklaces. We still have some of those on hand. We do have a couple of silver ones if you don't want the gold. Okay, we've got those, and there's a price change on that. They're going to be $15 now. At the shipping cost has gone up, unfortunately. So the necklace is still 10, but we have to put 5 in there for the shipping. Okay, so the whole thing will be 15. Ever how many of those you want. Bad news though, we are now out officially of the keychains. Okay, we don't have any more keychains, and I do have a few lapel buttons left, a few little lapel pins, but mainly all we have now are the necklaces. Okay. And you better, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to do this as a sale thing. I'm trying to be honest. If you want one, don't put it off because I don't know if I can ever get any more of these. And they're going pretty fast. Okay, absolutely. And if you want one, I don't want you to miss out on getting one if you want one. And of course, all these items are blessed. Okay, and I had a lot of requests for that, definitely. And so they are blessed items. And like I say, if you want a necklace, it's $15 straight out. That includes shipping. Okay. Just let me know. You can email me at denniswcarroll@gmail.com, and I will certainly get in touch with you, and we will set things up for you if you want one. Okay. Just want to make that available for you. And you might notice we're doing a little bit different here tonight. We've got you might notice my mic here. We got a new mic, got a new setup here on the laptop, and I hope this is gonna work out good. And hope so. We'll see how that goes. Okay. And by the way, had a fantastic show with the Cryptid Huntress today. And if you haven't seen it, you definitely need to check that out. And it was fantastic. And I have it on my we did the thing on Werewolf Springs, and I have it on my playlist, or you can go to Jessica the Cryptid Huntress site and check out hers. Either one, but it was a great show. We had a lot of fun with this one. I think we went, if I'm not mistaken, Jessica, I think we went over a couple hours, didn't we, on that one? But it was very fascinating. We've even had, I think, a few people requesting a part 2 on that one. So I don't know, but you rock too, Jessica. Absolutely, thank you, and I appreciate that, and appreciate all you do, and also want to thank my good brother Gerald who helped set something up for me. It's going to be a big surprise for everybody. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag right now, okay? But it's coming up very soon, and next week, Wednesday night, 9 o'clock at this same time, it will not be a regular hunting shadows. It will be a seminar. Okay, 2 hour special 2 hour seminar on how to self defense against the darkness. Okay, and what Jessica says here, we had a great crowd today, and I appreciate you. It was fantastic, great show, and check it out if you get a chance to do that. I also recently, and this up on my Facebook, if you want to go there, I've got the link to it. And it is a Spotify, though. You can only hear it's only audio, okay? but I did a great, great interview with Vic Condiff and it's Bigfoot Eyewitness uh, show, the Bigfoot Eyewitness thing. Great show. Check it out. You can find the link on my Facebook. If you don't have Facebook, contact me and I will send you the link. I'll email it to you if you want to listen to it. It was a great show. Great show. And check that out. And also, my good friend Gerald and I did a fantastic show on the Triangles of Doom Monday night. If you missed it, you need to go check it out on the road less traveled. Okay? Absolutely. And check that out when you get a chance. And it was great. It was a good show. I think Gerald and I are just getting in a real good swing on this one. Okay. Well, we're going to have some more interesting stuff coming up. Next Monday night, by the way, we're going to be doing On the Road Less Traveled. Gerald and I are going to be exploring ghost towns. How does that sound, huh? Yeah, ghost towns. And we're going to be doing that. Okay, let's see what some of the good people have got to say out there a little bit before we launch into the program tonight. Baba Yaga is one of the most interesting Slavic and also Russian and Ukrainian and all that whole section, Serbia, is one of the most interesting legends that's going out there. And I think she's the foundation for a lot of fairy tales that we know about. Hello, Philip. Good to have you here, Philip. Just getting all work, huh? All right. You like ghost towns? Oh, yeah. I love ghost towns. Oh, yeah. Nothing feels like the Old West to me like a ghost town. Absolutely. Tombstone actually is a ghost town in a way, but it is more of a tourist mecca now, actually, more than a ghost town. But it is fantastic. I love ghost towns, absolutely. And moving along, I'm just checking out some of your comments here. But are you? I'm going to ask a question now to some of you out there. This is a strange question for a paranormal show, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How many out there are familiar with John Wick? Okay. The John Wick movie series. If you've never seen it, I advise watching it. They are great movies laid out very well, although they are very violent. Okay, I got to warn you about that. They are very violent, but they are good stories. And John Wick is a retired hitman, one of the best in the world. And he comes out of retirement when they kill his dog. They never should have done that. They stepped over the line. They killed his dog. So you need to check out John Wick, okay? But the reason I'm mentioning John Wick tonight, although it's one of my favorite stars, Keanu Reeves, who was fantastic as Constantine too, by the way. But in the story, they keep calling John Wick Baba Yaga, the boogeyman. Well, this shows you how Hollywood screws up things, okay? Hollywood is very good at screwing up things. And when they call him the boogeyman, I don't know what they're talking about here. Baba Yaga is not the boogeyman, okay? She's bad. You don't want her around. You definitely don't want to deal with this lady. She is a premier witch of the wood. She lives in the woods. That's why you call her. There are different types of witches, okay, folks? And I'm going to be getting into that in a little bit. But there are ice witches, there are snow witches, there are wood witches, there are road witches, there are mountain witches, okay? There's a lot of different types. It just depends on where they live, okay? And that's the little title that they get. But she is definitely not a boogeyman. The boogeyman, by the way, I did some research and I found the real Russian boogeyman, okay? And he is sort of like Baba Yaga's husband in a way. Of course, they're not really married, of course, but I mean, it's kind of the male equivalent of Baba Yaga, okay? And his name is Babe. That's how you pronounce it in Russian. Babe is the boogeyman. Okay, you do not want to mess with this guy. He will kill you and eat you very quickly, especially if you're a young, tender child. Okay, he loves children best of all. He is the boogeyman, and that's who the Russian mothers and the Ukrainian mothers and all those warn their kids about every night. You better straighten up, or Bobby will get you. Okay, Bobby. That's how you pronounce it, Bobby, not Bobby, but Bobby. I think that's one pronunciation. I'm not real good at Russian. Okay, but that's how it's supposed to sound, I think. But now Baba Yaga, and let me go over here. I got a picture I want to bring up of her and get started with this. Hold on just a second. That's the one I'm looking for. Yeah, it's her. She is a bad looking old gal. Take a look at that. Okay, now that's Baba Yaga. And she has there's several variations of that name. It can mean a big nose or ugly woman or ugly old woman. It's basically what Baba Yaga means. Um, she is supposedly a very evil witch. Okay, put it that way. Now look at the hut behind her. By the way, it's very interesting. Her hut is out in the woods, and it is on two chicken legs. Okay, I'm not kidding, folks. Her her hut that she lives in stands on two chicken legs, and it moves. It can walk, it can go different places, but usually it's turning around. It's always turning. It's always moving like a chicken does. If you ever watch chickens, they're always moving. From the moment the chicken's eyes opens up from sleep, it's moving. Okay. And that's the way this hut is doing. And it's a very interesting hut. But that's not even a part of it. Instead of flying around on a broom, okay, she flies in a mortar and pestle with a pestle. Now, what the heck is that? That a mortar, of course, if you're familiar with that, is usually a stone bowl, and a pestle is what you use to grind up stuff. Is you grind up like corn or flour or pepper or whatever you grind up, you grind it up in the mortar. She rides around, flies around in a mortar with a pestle in the mortar. And the reason she does that, of course, I have to explain this to you a minute. The mortar is a symbol of a witch because witches grind up their stuff, whether they're making a spell or whatever they're making. They usually grind it to powder. They pulverize stuff in the mortar, okay, with a pestle. Okay, that's the thing you use. Of course, it's round that you use to do stuff with that way. Okay, you love chicken disease, sweet pea. Okay. Well, maybe you might like Baba Yaga because she evidently is a chicken person. Okay. So anyway, uh, th- that's a very distinct tie into witchcraft. Okay, and we're gonna be talking about that in a few minutes because we're gonna get into witches here in general a little bit. And witches are one of my favorite subjects too because they're interesting. And here's the most interesting thing about witches, folks: they're real. They're not made up. They're real. Okay, I can assure you. Cats wander and witches dance. Okay, I've seen them. Okay, I've seen them do it. Okay, now, yeah, you make guacamole in a mortar with a pestle. Yeah, you can do that too, girl. And they're gone. Absolutely. But now that's why she rides. She doesn't use a broom. She rides around in a mortar. Okay, and she hits you with that pestle, knock you out, stick you in her mortar, and grind you up and eat you. Okay, that's what happens. And you might see in the picture there, she's got some poor innocent little kid there by his coat. She's fixing to pull him up in the house there and bake him in her oven. She has an oven in the house. Now, is this beginning to sound a little familiar to you? Does this not sound like the witch from Hansel and Gretel? Does it not? Okay. Now, I believe that there's a lot of folklore, and fairy tale stuff that they get from legend, okay? And that's got definitely a direct tie right here, folks, with Baba Yaga and her oven in the chicken leg of the house, okay? That sounds very much like the witch from Hansel and Gretel, absolutely. By the way, there was a great movie made about that some years back. I like to watch it. It was Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. And it was a great movie. If any of you have ever seen it, if you're not, check it out. You need to go to watch it. It's got the guy that does the Avenger, plays Hawkeye in the Avenger movies, the one that got ran over with the snowplow thing. You know, what was his name? I can't think of his name. Anyway, he stars in this with this other girl in this brother and sister team. Well, it's a fantastic movie. I loved it. Great movie. Check it out sometime. It's got a lot of witches in it. Okay, absolutely, because they're witch hunters. And I would think if Hansel and Gretel were to grow up, they would definitely have to turn out to be witch hunters, probably. Absolutely. But anyway, yeah, they think herbal treatments were witchcraft. Yeah, they did think that. Well, there were a lot of superstitions. We're gonna get into that in a few minutes when I get through with Baba Yaga. But there are a lot of superstitions connected with that, and people had a very superstitious and very, shall I say, religious outlook on some of this stuff. Okay, and we're gonna talk about that in a few minutes. But anyway, um, the interesting thing about Baba Yaga, she likes to eat children, and she is definitely not a good person. Okay, now this is a kind of a rendition of Baba I talked about, the real boogeyman. Okay, that's him there supposedly, and a little bit of rendition of what he looks like. And actually, this is a Russian thing that you can buy a cup with his motto on it. Okay, that kind of thing. But got one more thing here. That's her flying around in her motor. She's in her motor with her bezel there flying around in that. So that's her. Now, she is fascinating. The reason I picked her out, she is the epitome of witchcraft, so to speak, especially the way some cultures look at it. You know, it's very interesting in that respect. But have been other, of course, very famous witches down through history, supposedly. But I think Baba Yaga, the reason I picked her out, is sort of the foundation for a lot of the fairy tale witches, okay, that you hear about, and all that. I think she's sort of the model for a lot of those. That makes her very interesting to me. Yes, Midwest Night Watchers, Grimm's fairy tales are loaded with people like her. Absolutely. Baba Yaga. Okay. But she is not the boogeyman. I don't know where they got that in John Wick. I don't know. They tried to make him out to be bad, and they were scared of him. But they should have just called him. They should have told. They did. They called him Baba Yaga, and they shouldn't have done that. They should have come up with Baba, which would have been more accurate. But that's. I guess it didn't sound good to them. I guess they like Baba Yaga better. But that's the way. That's the way Hollywood screws up things. Okay, absolutely. But let me get turned down to witches and witchcraft. Okay, and of which I know a lot about. It is a fascinating subject. Absolutely. And like I said, the interesting thing about witches, 100% true. They are real. They do exist. Okay. But let me say something right now, and you gotta get this clear in your mind. Witches do not worship real witches. Do not worship Satan. Actually, real witches, supposedly, we're going to talk about two kinds of real witches here. Okay. Real, honest to God, pagan witches worship the old gods. Okay, the old gods of nature and other things. I'm not going to get into their religious beliefs, but that's the religion of witches. Okay, that's main religion of witches. Satanists, on the other hand, worship Satan. They worship the devil, but some of them call themselves witches. Okay, so you got two types of witches. You got more than really two types, but two main focus on two types of witches. You got pagan witches, and then you've got dark witches, which are also tied into Satanists. Okay, I know it sounds confusing. The way that ball rolls. Okay, and you got to remember that that's the two things you're dealing with. Now, I've had a lot of flack over the years, and people. I had a friend one time who was a dyed in the wool, 100% witch, and she used to get mad at me because she said, "Oh, you're making the witches out to be evil, and we're not all evil." I said, "Well, I'm not talking about regular witches, when I mention stuff like that, like Baba Yaga, she is not good. She is not a good person. Okay. She is a bad, dark, evil witch. That's what she is. So you got to differentiate between her and some of the pagan witches. Now, there are dark and evil pagan witches. Okay. That's why it's just so confusing thing here. Okay. You've got dark pagan witches. And then you've got, and I want to say, in a way, I want to call them Christian witches, but that's a contradictory thing. They're not Christian, okay? But they are seen through the precepts of the church sometimes that way, okay? Got to remember that as well. But the dark witches are tied into true Satanism, okay, and vice versa. But whereas in the pagan witches, do not believe in God. They do not believe in the Christian God. They do not believe in Satan or personal devil. They worship the old gods, mostly of nature. Okay. That's the way that goes. And I'm not going to get into that, how that works. But there's a big difference now. We've got to remember this. Okay. There's a big difference between witches and witchcraft. Witches are what they are. Okay. And being a witch has its own kind of religion. Okay. But witchcraft is their art. Okay. You got to remember that. That's a profession. Witchcraft is not a belief, it's a profession. Okay. Because that's what you practice, things that you do as a witch. It's called witchcraft. Okay. And there are different, and well, whatever witch you're dealing with, whether it be a pagan witch or a satanic witch, an evil witch, you're still dealing with witchcraft, one kind or another. Okay, that's just the way that ball goes too. That ball bounces that way also. So you got to remember that. And I know it's kind of confusing, but once you get it straight in your mind, you'll remember that's how it goes. Well, now there are Ozark granny witches. Now, granny witches, I want to talk about granny witches a minute, okay? Because in the Ozark and the Appalachians, and Jessica and I talked a lot about the Appalachians today on her program. The Appalachians have their own magic. The granny witches are not really witches, per se. They're not really witches, okay? They don't worship the old gods. Most of the granny witches are mostly Christian women, okay? But they believe in home remedies. They believe in a lot heavily into superstition and all that. But most of them are Christian women, okay? I know that sounds wild, but it's true. Most of them are. But a lot of this stuff relates to what we call not the doctors. They were folk medicine doctors. They believed in folk medicine, certain herbs and spices, things like that, plants that would help you and heal you. That they're not witches, okay? They're medicine people. They're healers. They're not true witches, although they got labeled with that title by superstitious people. Okay, that's the way that goes. Okay, but but are they grannies? Yes, freaky geek. Some of them, most of them are somebody's granny. Okay, I put it that way. Now some of them were old maids, of course, but most of them were somebody's granny. Okay. Was Baba Yaga ever human? Okay, no. She has always been what she was. She is a bad gal. She is a witch. But witches are human. Okay. Now hold on a minute. Let me specify this again. Witches could be you or me. Witches could be anybody. You may have your next door neighbor may be a witch. Okay. Your professor or your teacher may be a witch. Your tax lady may be a witch. Anybody can be a witch, okay, or a warlock, as the case may be. It can be anybody. They're humans. Witches are human, okay, but they cross the line into supernatural stuff when, like we mentioned today, and I mentioned before, when they go to take upon themselves dark supernatural powers, when they go in league with these dark forces. They, although still being human, they step over into the supernatural. Okay, that's just the way that goes. Then weird things happen, just like the skinwalkers. Skinwalkers are people. They are witches. Okay, they're just native indigenous witches. That's what they are. Okay, They're Native American witches. Okay. But they're still witches. They're still wizards, warlocks, and witches. That's what they are. And they've stepped over into dark magic and dark witchcraft. But they're not the European witches that we're talking about right now. They're not the European tradition. They're coming from a different direction in their belief system. You understand what I'm saying? Now, the European witches, the Tibetan ones, okay, have been around a long time. Yeah, of course, they will erroneously state that their religion is older than the Christian God. That's not true. Christian God's been around since the beginning, but some of them will say that, I think, out of bias or whatever the situation. That's not really true, okay? But there's always been a contention between the church and the pagan witches, definitely. The church looked down upon all witches. It didn't matter whether you were pagan or not, or if you were satanic. They lumped you all together in one thing, okay? But of course, religions are bad about doing stuff like that, okay? That's the way that rolls. Yes, they will heal by telling you to recite passages of the Bible, 7 nights on. Yeah, anti-venom. That's true. They are Christian women, but they just have a very deep superstitious belief in things. And sometimes it can run over into the natural things, like certain herbs, plants that will heal you. Take a look at just one example. Where do you get aspirin from? You ever wonder about it? Where did aspirin come from? Aspirin's been around for thousands of years. Did you know that? Aspirin comes from the bark of the willow tree. Where you get it? That's where it comes from. And look, it's a good painkiller. Does a lot of stuff for your body. Helps fight infection. Originally, it came from the bark of a willow tree. And some medicine person found that out a long time ago, and we've been using it ever since. So science, really the roots of all science began in parts of the craft, okay? In parts of the medicine thing and all that. That's where it began. Just like I said, chemistry began with alchemy. A lot of that astronomy began with astrology. That's the way it goes. That's where you get a lot of this stuff in. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And the Amish powwow. Yeah, the powwow. Yeah. I couldn't think of that. Yeah, the powwow. That's another one. Yeah, the willow bark tree. Yeah. And so aspirin's not from dragging somebody's backside around to get the money. No. Afraid not. Pretty geek. Although it may feel like that sometimes. Absolutely. But anyway, you get a lot of medicines from places like, and they're still, do you know there are active teams out in the field right now looking at different wild plants and the things that different wild plants can do to help people maybe fight cancer with heart disease or whatever the situation? That's still ongoing. It always will be. That's part of science. Looking for these natural remedies and stuff. There's nothing wrong with it. But a lot of people have been doing that for ages, okay? That was folk medicine. And the people that practiced folk medicine, unfortunately, got hung with the witch title. And they weren't witches. They had nothing to do with witches, okay? But a lot of people got murdered because of that, because they were accused of being witches because they were healers and believed in natural remedies. Unfortunately, lost their lives for that. But of course, and I've talked about the Salem witchcraft trials before, and that was a travesty of justice. It had nothing to do with real witchcraft. That was just what the excuse was to steal people's land or get revenge on people. That's all it was, okay? They didn't hang any real witches there, okay? I doubt that very much. But it was all about greed. That's what it was all about. And using the church for reasons that you wanted to, to increase your wealth with, and that still goes on to this day, does it not? But that's the way it runs. Castor oil works on a lot of things. Yeah, castor oil's one, and yes, that is the white willow tree. Yeah, and yeah, it was a land grab. Yeah, they did hang real people, but none of them are real witches. Though I don't think none of them are really witches, but they confess to it because the torture they confess. Where do you get that at? I mean, and it was so silly to think of the things they did, but they had their precepts. They thought they were the ultimate judges over everybody else. That's what happens when you get ultimate power. You abuse it every time. Let me say something. There's been a lot of people who have over the years tried to take medicine, and if you take it the wrong way, if you abuse it, it's not going to help you. It's going to destroy you. And that's just the same way these things work, too. The Cryptid Hunter says the Appalachians are my stomping ground. Absolutely. I love them. I've been in the mountains many, many times. That's one of my favorite parts of the U.S., Cryptid Hunters. I love the Appalachians. And there's so many different, not only cryptids, but legends and stories, monsters, ghosts, giants. The whole works are in the Appalachians. And if you go back in time and look when the earth was all one big continent, I want to tell you something to freak you out here. When the earth was all one big giant continent, the Appalachian Mountains actually hooked up with the Carpathian Mountains in Transylvania, by the way. Think about that. That's wild. Okay, but anyway, um, you mean the kitchen? Say Freaky Geek says you mean just you mean the kitchen's not your stomping ground. Poor woman. That woman is one of the busiest women I know. Okay, she probably doesn't have a whole lot of time to stay in the kitchen. Absolutely, she's always got her plate full. There were villages in Germany that exterminate almost they won over witchcraft. Yeah, but it was a lot of but like I say, they destroyed a lot of folk medicine when they did that. Unfortunately, because those people had to hide, they were in fear of their lives. They had to stop doing a lot of what they're doing, and that hurt people. That didn't help anybody. That was a big hurt there. Hello, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, my brother. Good to have you in here tonight. Good to see you, son. And I mean, that's just the way that rolled. But now witchcraft, there were some, and like I said, when they talk about white witchcraft or good witchcraft, that's basically what they're talking about. Herbs and all that stuff that help people, okay? And maybe try to cure diseases or whatever the situation was. That was what your true white witchcraft was, okay? But now the dark witchcraft went in many different avenues. Like I said, you had dark pagan witches, and then you had dark satanic witches. Okay. And they were doing different bad things. Okay. In that respect. Now, like I've talked about before, there are certain levels of witchcraft in which you obtain power. You keep going. It's sort of like the Masons, okay. I hate to say that. Masons get mad at me when I use an example, but it's true. It's very much like the Masons. There are different levels in this witchcraft, okay, that you learn that you can ascend to. But if you're doing dark witchcraft, every level is horrendous. It gets worse and worse and worse and worse as it goes up. It demands more and more and more of your soul, of your spirit, of your well-being. It demands more and more and more. The price eventually becomes higher than you would ever want to pay for this. The power that you get from this. Okay, but it's all a big trap. Okay, folks, let me lay that out for you right quick. This is all a big trap by satanic forces just to sucker you in, get you hooked on the dark power. And believe me, let me say this. I'm gonna make this statement to you tonight. You listen well what I'm about to say, okay? The darkness of evil, the power, and all of that goes with it is the most addictive thing on this planet. Let me repeat that again for you. This dark power, this darkness that we're talking about, once it gets in your soul, it is the most addictive thing you could ever mess with. That's why you need to warn people against it. Don't mess with this. Don't play with it because it is more addictive than heroin, meth, or anything. Trust me, it wraps true chains of darkness around the human soul. Chains that are very not impossible to break. Okay. This is highly addictive because the more power you get, the more you want. Okay. It's like you see people that are addicted to gambling or pornography or alcohol or drugs. Whatever the addiction is, that is nothing compared to what this darkness can addict you with. Okay. And you got to remember that 'Cause that is the most stern warning I can give you on that. You don't want to play around with this stuff. I would say you'd be safer playing with a box of rattlesnakes than you would with this stuff. Okay, I wouldn't advise it. No, sir. Because once you get one little bit of it in, once it's like what the Bible says. It's not that comes out of a man that defiles him, but what goes in. What goes into that person is what truly corrupts you on the inside out, and then it shows up on the outside. Okay, but that's the way that works. And when you allow this darkness to come into you, it will invade you and take you over and overcome you to the point where you are so addicted to it. That's all you want. You will sacrifice. Let me tell you this. You will be so bad you would cut your own child's throat for this stuff. Now, let me repeat that again for you. You would cut your own child's throat. And this may require you to do that very thing. It may require you to do that very thing to get the power you want. But you know what? You will be so highly addicted to it, you will think that that's something you can do. Okay? That's something that you need to do. This is dark, dark stuff, folks. Okay? And that's why I say you got to be very careful with how you deal with it. Shira says she has actually seen people change and go dark. Oh, yeah. I've seen it happen many times. I know there are people 6 foot under right now tonight that were put there by these forces. They didn't. I mean, this is not something made up. This is real life stuff. And that's what's so dangerous and so very dark about this stuff, folks. What we're talking about is something. It's not fairy tale stuff here. Okay? It's not Baba Yaga. She's fairy tale. But the real stuff is true. I mean, it really is happening. That's like, somebody asked me before what I always thought about the Exorcist movie. And I would always say the most disturbing thing about the Exorcist movie was not her head going around and spitting up pea juice and all that stuff. The most disturbing thing about that is that it could actually be true, because I have seen it happen. I know it's true. I know it's real. I know that this is a real thing that's out there and a real danger. People think that you're talking about a fairy tale, but they will believe differently once they confront this or it comes into their lives the bad way. Then they find out. Let me tell you a quick story, okay, from one of my case files. I went to I think I might have told this before, but I'll repeat it again. I'm an old man, so I get to repeat myself, okay? But I knew a young man one time, and I mentored him, okay? And we went into a very bad demonically infested household, okay? And I warned him. I said, now, be very careful what we're dealing with. He believed that there were demons a little bit, but he was kind of like not sure they really existed. I should have really kept him out of it, but he wanted to be there very badly, okay? Well, he challenged these forces, and they launched an attack against him. They knocked this boy down, okay? And I mean, they were doing the job on him. I could see him. He was shaking like a leaf. They attacked him emotionally, okay? Fear. They attacked him emotionally. I had to take him physically out of that house. I led him out of that house. I had to get him away. I had to get him out from in there, okay? Because they were attacking him so badly, these demonic spirits, these evil spirits. Well, I could see darkness around this guy, okay? I didn't want to tell him that. I didn't want to scare him or frighten him any more than he already was. But I could see darkness around. I had to get him out of there. I pulled him out. I took him all the way. There was a long driveway at this place, okay? I took him all the way up the driveway. I took him up to the end. And these people owned a lot of dogs. And there were dogs. All the dogs were looking at us, And I began to... I began to bless this guy, and I began to pray for him, okay? I began to help him get this darkness off of him, okay? I'm not going to go into detail on that, but let me tell you the weird freaky thing. As soon as I anointed him and got through praying for him, as soon as I said amen, every dog in that neighborhood began to howl. It was the eeriest, weirdest thing. I never had to have that happen before or since. Every dog in the neighborhood howled, began to howling. And from that moment on, that boy was a believer. Because believing and seeing and being attacked will make you definitely believe. And he was a believer. He quit. He finally quit paranormal investigation altogether again. And I finally told him, I said, look, I just don't think you're cut out for it, you know? And he agreed. But that's the way that went. Okay. And that's what the darkness will do to you. And that's what these warlocks and witches are playing around with. Okay. And like I say, a lot of them are very much like the hackers, like computer hackers. You ever wonder why you get your system messed up? I used to work on computers years ago. I used to clean computers, not just people, but computers too. I used to clean them off with something. Of course, most of the time people got them messed up because they wouldn't stay off the porno sites. But anyway, dirtygranny.com. They wouldn't stay off the porno sites. So they would get the computers messed up and I'd have to go in and clean them. But the interesting thing is they asked for the trouble and they got it. And that's what happened to that boy. He asked for trouble. He challenged these things when he should have shut up and not done that. I told him, don't ever do that. Don't ever challenge them because they'll take you up on it. And you'll be sorry. But that's the way it works. Okay. That's the way darkness is. And the darkness of evil that these warlocks and witches, they're like the computer hackers. You ever wonder you get your system messed up? You say, why couldn't somebody be out there doing good instead of evil by hacking people's computers and making all these viruses and all that stuff? Why? Because they like to do evil stuff. They think that's funny. That's fun to them. And there are witches and warlocks, I guarantee you without a doubt, out there tonight that are sitting around plotting, doing something to you and to me. Because that's just the way they want to be. They want to cause us trouble. They want to make things hard on us because that's who the boss is they're working for. That's the way he does, okay? And without I've had death curses put on me. You know that. I've told you about that later. And what have I ever done? I've never done anything to any of them, okay? But that doesn't stop them. They're out to make trouble. They're just troublemakers. But the kind of trouble they can spread sometimes, my friends, and make your life a living hell. So be very careful with who you deal with. And I've had a lot of people come to me and say, oh, this is going wrong or that's going wrong. And I say, well, you wouldn't happen to have any friends who are witches or into witchcraft, would you? Or have you been dabbling in it yourself? Or whatever the situation is, because usually sometimes that's what the problem is. And if you've got enemies, my friends, they're going to come after you in different ways. And don't think they wouldn't stop to use witchcraft either, okay? Oh, no. They can do that. The dark witchcraft is what they utilize a lot of times against people, okay? So we have to be very careful. And I'm going to be talking about that next Wednesday night. I'm going to be talking about the self-defense against this darkness. Things you can do to safeguard your life. This is self-defense against the darkness part 2, okay? I did one before, and I'm doing part 2. I'm going to give you some more things you can do to combat this darkness. Because let me tell you this, the darkness is rising against us. More and more and more every day, day and day after day, is becoming more and more prevalent. And we're going to have to be very careful from now on how we walk and how we do things, how we look at things, how our perspective needs to be on these things, okay? We've got to understand that. But that's what you deal and do with dark witchcraft and all that, okay? And that's how these things go. The dark side is very attractive to a narcissist. So it's attractive to a lot of people for all the wrong reasons. Catherine, absolutely. Crystal Carroll says, please like and share. Thank you, Crystal. Let me put that up if I can find it. As a reminder. Also, if you're out there and you haven't subscribed, please do so. And let's see, they love chaos, girl and her guns. Absolutely, they thrive on that kind of stuff. They thrive on making things hard on people. They like that. I told you about that witch that was in class actually putting spells on her students, you know, that, and she said she could tell which one had Christian families and fathers and mothers that were praying for them because the spells would bounce off of them. It was like water off a duck's back. That's real. She confessed to that. Okay, she said I did that. She's no longer doing that. She has become a Christian now. Repented of all that stuff. But she was doing it. She said the coven would get together and think up ways to do that. So these people are always generating dark, evil trouble for everybody else. This is the way they work. They're not, hey, these covens are not sitting around with knitting needles making scars for people, okay? And if they did, I wouldn't take one. Thank you. Okay. But anyway, that's the way it goes. So you got any questions out there and some feedback? I'm ready for your feedback on that whenever you get ready. But it's not something to dabble with, girl. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You don't want to dabble in it. You don't want to play with it because, like I said, you'd be safer playing with a box of rattlesnakes. Truly, and I mean that when I say that because the rattlesnakes can kill your body. This stuff kills your soul. It eats your soul up like a dark acid. That's what it is. And you only got one soul. That's it. Let's see. Chance of late. I hope I'm not. It's not almost over. Not yet. We're just doing a little feedback right now here. But anyway, anybody see something dark move to Genesis right side? Oh, it might just be my shadow, but it wouldn't surprise me. They don't like it when I talk about these things. There are certain forces out there that don't like me at all, but I'm not going to get into that tonight. To give them acknowledgement gives them power, and I don't do that. That's not a good thing to do. Like I told you before, my friends, do not give your enemy bullets to shoot at you with. Do not give your enemies ammunition to use against you. Never do that. That's a foolish thing. And a lot of times, and unfortunately, we have to talk about these things when we're trying to warn people, teach people things or whatever the situation was. But most of the time, I don't like to acknowledge them. That's like I said today on Jessica's show, we were doing, about the skinwalkers. She said you don't talk about them. You don't want to talk about them because it puts their focus on you, and that's not a good idea. Right movement side. It was in front of him. Well, there is a mic. I might hit it. I don't know. The mic's right here. But anyway, I got a mirror here too, so you might be seeing some reflection on that a little bit. I don't know. But it would not surprise me. I have had people tell me they've seen them around me before. They would like to try to trip me up and stop me from saying what I'm trying to say, but they don't. They want to know by now that's not going to work. But anyway, thank you, Midwest. And that's Baba Yaga. She's a bad old girl. So if you're out in the woods walking around and a hut with chicken legs, standing on these big giant chicken legs, my advice for you is to look for the nearest exit. Okay? Because I don't think you want to run into Baba Yaga. You might end up in her mortar and then in her stove. Okay? She'll bake you into a loaf of bread. And this guy says, again, good to see good people more than once a day. That's a good rule. I normally see shadows. I don't normally see shadows. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you pick up on them. They don't want you to, but you do. But anyway, I was telling somebody the other day, one of my all-time favorite Shakespearean plays, of course, you know what it is, don't you? Macbeth. because it's got the three weird sisters, the three witches in it. Great story. It is, in my opinion, one of the greatest Shakespearean plays. Uh, I mean, look at the story itself. You got, double double, boil and trouble, cauldron burn and fire bubble. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. Great lines, great lines. It's a great story. It's a scary story. I mean, there's Macbeth who murders the king, and then he can't sleep anymore. And he starts seeing that dead king at the end of the table looking at him with blood on him because he had him assassinated. He assassinated himself. He cut his throat and to become king of Scotland. But his conscience is bothering. Is it a real ghost that he's seeing, or is it his conscience that's bothering? And then his wife, Lady Macbeth, is slowly going insane. Trying to wash the blood off her hands, and she never can. She keeps washing her hands all the time, going compulsively insane. What a great story, folks. You don't get much better than that. That's really good. Shakespeare could do it. Oh, yeah. Let's see. It is to your right side on the whiteboard. Well, this is probably my shadow. See? It's probably my shadow reflecting on that whiteboard behind me. I think that's what you're seeing. Actually, I'm looking at it while I'm moving here. Yeah, I think that's what you may be seeing. There's another little board stuck on that, and that could be reflecting on that. But then again, you never know. Uh, that's what she says. I spot something about that. So I used to play on an online game. My little grandson was a Baba Yaga on one of the worlds. Oh yeah, she's a bad gal. All right, definitely. I would not want to end up in her oven. Oh yeah. Oh, but talking about Macbeth, one of the great lines in that is how's that go? So, uh, if the assassination was done when it's done, it would be well if it were done quickly. If this assassination could trammel up the cease blow, this blow might blow you to be all end all here. But here upon this bank and shoal of time we jump the life to come. Not bear the knife myself, besides this Duncan hath borne his faculties so meek, hath been so great in his clear office that his death shall ring like trumpet-tongued angels against the deep damnation of his shaking off in pity. I pity like a naked newborn babe striding the blast on heaven's cherubim, seated upon the sightless couriers of the air, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye. That tears I tears. So drown the wind. I have no spur with which to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition which overleaps itself and falls upon the other. He's contemplating murder here, okay? That is great stuff. I tell you what, Shakespeare, it's been, I'll do some good Shakespeare for you one night, folks. Absolutely. Um, okay, that's what it is, but when I saw it the first time, so much darker. Yeah, well, you never know, Freak Geek. It's always good to be watchful, absolutely. We'll pray for protection over your dens to know you're able to rebuke shadows. Thank you, Jan. Absolutely. But pray, yes. Prayer, there is power. The greatest power is prayer, folks. Prayer can really thwart a lot of evil plans against them. And like that witch I was talking about, having the spells bounce off of those children, they had prayers said over them. They were being prayed for. And that's what counts. Absolutely. It's good when a mystery is solved. I like to solve mysteries. Although I enjoy mysteries while they are mysterious, though, by the way. That's the way that goes too. But it's fun to solve them as well. They love to do some Shakespeare. Yeah, Shakespeare's good. I have to do Hamlet for you one night. Hamlet's my second favorite. Hamlet. There's a ghost in it too, by the way. I read it once. I cannot. What was the name? I think the name of it was The Third Ghost in Hamlet or something like that. But what it was about a Shakespearean company, and they were doing Hamlet. and it was sort of like and the girls who were in the play backstage were playing with a Ouija board, and bad news, huh? And anyway, supposedly they contacted the ghost of William Shakespeare. Anyway, the actor that plays Hamlet's father, uh, supposedly came out and did the ghost, and the ghost has to do it in a very ghostly, booming voice, and said he did fantastic. And somebody on the sideline said he sounded like a real ghost. Well, they found the actor dead later on in a room in the back, and his costume was not on him. And they said and when they found his body, he had been dead for like 4 hours. There was no way he could have been the ghost in Hamlet. So who was the real ghost? And that was interesting. Was it really a ghost, or was it somebody else substituting for the actor? That was a great, great story. Lady girl in the I used to waken at 4:30 when I did Kundalini yoga. There's lots of worms. Huh? We'll pray for the day. Thank you. Okay, that's not. All right, I'm reading. I'm behind on some of these here. Let's see what we got. It was a ghost or real, and it might have been, or maybe that was his last act as a ghost. I always said I like to write a ghost story about a podcaster, and it actually does. I call it the last podcast, and what it is, he actually dies on the way home, but his ghost shows up and does the podcast that night anyway. And then when they say, well, he couldn't have done it because he died in an automobile wreck 4 hours before that podcast came on, and they go back to check the podcast, and there's no podcast. It doesn't exist. They all saw it, but it's no longer there. Make a great story, wouldn't it? But anyway, I guess that's going to wrap it up for tonight, folks. And I appreciate you being here for another edition of Hunting the Shadows. And don't forget now, next Wednesday night, 9 o'clock p.m., 2 hour. Well, I'm going to probably start at 8 o'clock. Okay, I guess. We'll see. But anyway, it's going to be 2 hours. Special. I may start at 9. It's going to be a 2 hour special seminar. Okay, you don't want to miss it. Yeah, it was broadcasted live on the air, but then nothing remained of the podcast. That would be the Ghost in the Last podcast. But anyway, I think about writing that as a story. I'll make a good little story. I like a good ghost story. Everybody likes a good ghost story. But Dan said, I ain't afraid of no ghosts. There you go. Well, I met a few in my time. And they're still there. I didn't do anything to them. Okay. But anyway, appreciate you all being here tonight. And like I said, if any of you, I want to thank you for your time and effort. And if you any stickers that you might have given tonight and I didn't see it, forgive me, okay? But I appreciate your support. You have gone a long way to help me out with a lot of things, and you have my immeasurable gratitude, okay? From the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate all that you've been doing, and all the support you give me. We're about like 843 people, I think. We're getting closer to that 1,000 mark. We get to 1,000, I'm gonna leave you all alone, okay? I'll quit bugging you, all right? So once we get to 1,000, I'll say, okay, we'll rest on our laurels then for a while, okay? But anyway, I appreciate you all being here tonight, and I hope you enjoyed a little dance we did with Baba Yaga tonight. She is not the boogeyman, okay? So next time you watch John Wick, just remember they're not talking about the Baba Yaga, they're getting that messed up. But anyway, that's the way Hollywood works. And I want to tell you something else about, and I'm going to be mentioning this next Wednesday as well. I've had a lot of people say, what do you think about all this soft disclosure, Dennis? Things coming out in movies, TV, different media. It's like they're spilling their secrets. Let me tell you something, okay? And I've been thinking a lot about this. Hollywood's not on our side, okay? The media is not on our side. They're not our friends, okay? We got to remember that. We got to remember that maybe there's a higher power that's revealing these things to us. I think that's what's really going on here, folks. Okay, I think these are things that we're being awakened by this higher power to the things that are truly going on with us in this world. Okay, let's think about that, because there is a force for good out there, and I believe without a doubt in my heart of hearts that it is working for us and not against us. It's working for us in every way possible. And I want to just kind of keep remembering that and keep looking up. Okay. And I want to thank you all for being here tonight. And Friday night now, Paranormal Point of View at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be doing the demon alien connection. You do not want to miss this. Okay. We're going to get into some freaky stuff Friday night. It's going to be Freaky Friday night, folks. Okay. And you don't want to miss that one. And so, my friends, until we get together again, remember Fortis Fortuna Advant. Fortune favors the bold. So let's be bold and let's go after what we need to get done. Okay. And until I see you all again, I hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. We're over the hump and we're heading into Friday and the weekend. So let's get there. Okay. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you folks so very much for joining me here tonight on Hunting the Shadows. And remember, you can join the membership, become an official shadow hunter. Okay. You're going to get some extra stuff coming your way. Okay. Don't think I'm not. I'm working on that. I'm working on it. Definitely. And your packages are in the mail. Okay. So be looking for those. And until we get together again, my friends, via con Dios.